Richard Blake stood by the window of his luxurious mansion, staring out into the rain that fell silently on the vast, empty courtyard. Everything around him spoke of wealth, marble floors, golden chandeliers, paintings worth millions, but inside him there was only emptiness. At just 35, Richard was one of the richest men in the country. He owned shopping malls, hotels, tech companies, and real estate across the continent. But none of it filled the silence in his heart. He had dated countless women, all beautiful, all elegant, all drawn to his wealth, like bees to honey. One asked for a luxury car before their first date. Another wanted a house before agreeing to marry him. Every smile he received felt bought. Every kiss a transaction. Tired of the pretense, the fake affection, and the weight of being Richard Blake, he decided to disappear, not permanently, but enough to test the world and search for something real. One night, as he sat across from his best friend and personal assistant Ben, he said quietly, "I want to know what it feels like to be seen for who I am, not what I own." Ben blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Richard leaned forward. "I want to live as a poor man for a few weeks. No money, no name, just me. If someone can love me, then when I have nothing, then I'll know it's real." Ben dropped his spoon. "You're joking." "I'm not," Richard said, a quiet fire in his eyes. That night, he packed a small bag. Old tattered clothes, a torn blanket, enough money to buy food for a day. He left behind his designer watches, his gold rings, his credit cards, and his name. He rubbed dirt on his face and hands, put on broken sandals, and whispered to the grand hallway one last goodbye. "I'll return when I find something real." The next morning, Richard took a bus to one of the poorest neighborhoods on the edge of the city. He found a dusty alleyway near a market and sat against the wall, placing a rusty tin cup in front of him. People passed by, some gave him strange looks, others held their noses. A few muttered insults. No one saw him. He was invisible. At night, he curled up under a bridge surrounded by other homeless people. Rats scurried nearby, the wind was cold, and the sound of traffic roared above. His body ached, his stomach growled, but he stayed. On the fourth day, his body was weak. He had eaten only once in 2 days. His lips were cracked, his skin burned under the sun. He sat slumped beside the same wall, unable to lift his head, when he heard a soft voice. "Hello." He looked up slowly. A young woman stood before him, dark-skinned, wearing a simple yellow dress. Her eyes held something he hadn't seen in years, genuine concern. "You look hungry," she said. He nodded weakly. "I haven't eaten today." She looked into her small purse, frowned, and said, "I don't have money with me now. But wait. Please wait here. I'll go home and bring food. Don't leave, okay?" Richard stared at her, too stunned to speak. He nodded. "I'll wait." "I'm Joy," she said with a small smile, then turned and ran down the street. 15 minutes later, she returned with a black plastic bag in her hands, breathing heavily. "Sorry I took long," she said. "It's jollof rice and fish. I cooked it this morning." The smell made Richard's stomach twist with hunger. He opened the bag and began eating with his hands. Joy sat beside him on the ground. "Eat slowly. Don't choke." After he finished, he looked at her. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome," she replied. They sat quietly. Then Joy asked, "Where do you sleep at night?" He hesitated. "Under the bridge." Her eyes widened. "No, that place isn't safe. People fight, steal. You can't stay there." He shrugged. "I have nowhere else." She stood up. "Wait again. Let me ask my mother. Maybe she'll let you stay in our compound." But I must warn you, my family is complicated. Richard raised his brow. How complicated? She sighed. My father has 2 wives. I live with him, my mother, my stepmother, and my stepsister. It's not always peaceful. Before he could ask more, she had already run off again. Joy entered the small kitchen through the back of the house where her mother was slicing vegetables. Mom, she said out of breath. I met someone. He's poor, hungry. I gave him food. Can he sleep here for a few days? Her mother stared at her. You want to bring a stranger into this house? Joy nodded. He's weak but polite. He looks like he hasn't eaten properly in days. Please, Mom. Her mother hesitated, then said, Okay, but don't tell your father. He listens too much to that second wife. If he hears, there will be trouble. Joy's eyes widened. Really? Yes. We'll put him in the small room near the backyard. But he must not walk around during the day. Only at night, when it's safe. I promise, Mom, Joy said. Her mother sighed. This is not a joke, Joy. If anything happens, your father will not spare me. He won't. I promise. She ran back to the alley. Richard was still there, curled up by the wall. You're still here, she said. You told me to wait, he replied. Come with me, she said. You can stay at our house, but there are rules. My father must never know. Only my mother and I can see you. They walked together through the quiet streets. When they reached the compound, Joy led him through the back entrance. The room was small with a bare floor, a wooden door, and a tiny window. It was clean. Her mother was already there. She looked at Richard carefully. You can stay here, she said, but be silent. No noise, no walking around. Understood. Yes, Ma, he replied. Thank you. Joy brought him a bucket of water soap and a clean wrapper. Her mother came later with a mat and a plate of food. Richard stood silently, tears welling in his eyes. God bless you both, he said. I don't know how to thank you. Start by resting, her mother said. That night, Richard washed in the small backyard bathroom. He ate quietly, then lay down on the mat. For the first time in days, he felt safe. Inside, Joy sat on her bed thinking about him. Something about him was different. His calm voice, respectful tone, and eyes full of secrets. Who are you really? She whispered to herself. Meanwhile, in the small dark room, Richard stared at the ceiling, thinking about the girl who had fed him, the woman who had taken him in, and the home that had welcomed him without knowing his name. He smiled softly. Maybe this is where it all begins. 2 days had passed since Richard, now known simply as Kofi, began living in the small room at the back of Joy's house. Every morning, Joy brought him food and water quietly before anyone else woke up. Her mother helped too, slipping leftovers onto plates and watching from the window to ensure no one saw her daughter sneaking out. The little room, though bare, became a place of peace. Kofi spent the days listening to the soft sounds of life in the compound, cooking, sweeping children, playing in the distance. And every evening he sat by the small window, waiting for Joy's knock, which came like a heartbeat, soft, steady, comforting. They would talk in whispers. She told him about school, about her dream to become a nurse, and about the pain of living in a house where her mother was treated like a servant. Kofi listened silently, storing her every word like treasure. He didn't speak much about himself. He couldn't. Not yet. Not until he was sure. Not until he knew she was real. But secrets don't stay hidden for long, especially in a house filled with jealousy and sharp eyes. Martha, Joy's stepsister, had noticed something strange. Joy would disappear in the early mornings and again in the evenings. She carried trays of food, buckets of water, even blankets once. One night, Martha watched Joy slip out through the back door and vanish into the shadows. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. Something was going on, and she was going to find out. The next evening, Joy came to Kofi's room as usual. She brought boiled yam and pepper sauce, a bottle of water, and a warm smile. Kofi ate slowly, savoring each bite, not just for the food, but for the comfort it carried. They spoke softly, laughed a little, and then Joy left, promising to return in the morning. But this time someone else came back. There was a knock on the door, gentle like Joy's. Kofi smiled and opened it without thinking. But when the door creaked open, it wasn't Joy standing there. It was Martha. Her arms crossed, her lips curled into a smug grin. "So it's true," she said. "There is a man in this house." Kofi stepped back, shocked. "Please," he said, "don't cause trouble. I'll leave right now." "Shh," Martha whispered, stepping inside and locking the door. "You're not going anywhere." "What do you want?" he asked, confused. She stepped closer, licking her lips. "I want you," she said boldly. "You're handsome. Your skin, your voice, your eyes. You smell clean, not like a beggar. I want to kiss you." Kofi recoiled in disbelief. "What are you saying?" She leaned closer. "Sleep with me and I won't tell anyone you're here. Refuse and I scream." Kofi's face darkened. "You're disgusting. You don't even know me. You're shameless." Her smile vanished. "Shameless? Did you just insult me?" "Get out," Kofi said. She stepped forward, tried to touch him, and he slapped her hand away. That's when she screamed, "Daddy, Daddy, help! There's a stranger in the house. He tried to touch me." The silence of the compound shattered. Doors flew open. Lights came on. Joy's father stormed out holding a long stick. "Where is he?" he roared. "Where is the dog that entered my house to defile my daughter?" Madame Stella followed close behind, shouting like thunder. Richard stood frozen, the door wide open, Martha on the ground, fake crying. "It's him," she sobbed. "He tried to do bad things to me." The stick came swinging. Richard raised his arms to block the blow, stumbling backward. Then came Joy's voice. "Daddy, stop!" she screamed. "He didn't do anything. You. This is the stranger you've been hiding." "Yes," Joy cried. "But he's innocent." "Liar," her father shouted. "He entered like a snake. He must leave or die." Joy's mother ran out too. "Please, hear the truth," she begged. But Madame Stella pushed her aside. "You brought a man into our house behind your husband's back, shameless woman." Richard tried to speak, but Joy's voice cut through. "Don't worry," she said, gripping his hand tightly. "I won't let them hurt you." "So now you fight your father," the man growled. "Because of this, nobody." "He's not nobody," she shouted. "He's the kindest person I've ever met." Martha wailed louder. "He touched me. He wanted to kiss me." "You're lying," Joy screamed. "You're the one who came to his room. You're evil." Richard stared at Martha. "You're wicked," he said quietly. "And one day, everyone will know it." The compound gate had gathered neighbors. People whispered, pointed, watched the drama unfold like a movie. Joy's father raised his voice above the noise. "You have 10 minutes to leave this house or I call the police." Richard began to move, but Joy stepped in front of him. "No. If he leaves, I go with him." Gasps echoed. Her father's mouth dropped open. "What did you say?" "You heard me," she said, her voice firm despite the tears. "If he leaves, I leave too." Her mother stepped beside her, took her hand. "And I will go with my daughter. You chose your second wife over me long ago. I'm done." Her father laughed mockingly. "So be it. Go all of you, you useless women. And you," He pointed at Richard. "You've been sleeping with them, haven't you? Both of them." Joy's mother stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. "You think you're a man, you let your pride destroy your family. Not anymore." Madame Stella hissed. "Leave then, go back to your village hut, you dirty woman." Joy's mother smiled. "With joy, because I'd rather live in a hut with peace than in a mansion with poison." She turned to Joy. "Go and pack." Joy ran inside, wiping tears, but her heart bold. She threw clothes into a bag, added some of her mother's things. Richard helped carry a small box of pots and plates. As they walked out the gate, Joy's father screamed after them, "Don't ever come back! You'll regret this!" Joy didn't look back. She walked with her head high. Her mother held her hand tightly. Richard walked beside them, silent, humbled, carrying the weight of all they had just left behind. About 30 minutes later, they arrived at a quiet area at the edge of town. Joy's mother opened the rusted gate of a small, abandoned house. "This was my father's house," she said quietly. "I thought it was abandoned," Joy whispered. "It was, but now it's ours. We'll clean it, fix what we can, live in peace." They stepped inside. 2 rooms, a small kitchen, an outdoor bathroom. The walls were cracked, but the roof held strong. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Joy said, hugging her. Her mother wiped her eyes. "No, my daughter. I'm proud of you. You stood by a stranger when the world turned against him." Richard stood by the door, watching them. "You shouldn't have followed me," he said. "I'm just a poor man." Joy's mother walked over, placed her hand on his shoulder. "Don't say that. You were the light God sent to guide us out of darkness." His eyes burned with tears. "What will we do now?" Joy smiled. "We start over. Sell vegetables. Maybe a food stand. We don't have much, but we have each other." That night, under the stars, Richard lay on the bare floor of a room without gold, without air conditioning, without silence, but he felt something he had never known before. Love. Real, raw, and unbought. The journey had just begun. Life in the small, dusty house at the edge of town was nothing like Richard Blake's former life yet. Each morning brought a peace he had never felt before. There were no servants, no elevators, no gold-rimmed plates. Instead, there was laughter, shared chores, morning prayers led by Joy's mother, and the simple scent of fried plantain or vegetable stew simmering over a small coal pot. Richard, still known as Kofi Woke, early every day swept the compound, fetched water from the nearby well, and helped mend broken wooden fences for neighbors. Sometimes he earned small coins which he handed to Joy's mother without hesitation. "We'll save it," she would say, her eyes soft but proud. Joy had started helping her mother sell vegetables at the market. She would rise before dawn, wrap her hair in a scarf, carry a heavy basket of tomatoes, pepper, and okra on her head, and walk for miles to the main street. Richard often accompanied her halfway, then returned to help around the house. They didn't have much, but they had rhythm, laughter, teamwork, and something unspoken building quietly between them. At night after supper, Richard and Joy would sit under the large mango tree in the yard. The stars twinkled, the breeze whispered through the leaves, and they talked about their dreams. Joy told him she wanted to finish school and become a nurse. Richard listened, smiling to himself. He couldn't tell her who he really was. Not yet. Every time he looked into her eyes, his heart pounded. This was real. He had finally found it. And that's why he knew he had to leave. One evening, as the crickets chirped softly, Richard took Joy and her mother into the small sitting room. His face was serious, his hands folded. "I've made a decision," he said quietly. Joy's heart skipped. "What is it?" "I have to leave," he said. I need to go back to the city. Joy stood up, her face pale. No. Why? He looked at her gently. I love you, and I want to marry you. But I can't stay here forever eating your food and hiding under your roof. I need to work, save, and prepare a future worthy of you. Joy blinked quickly. I don't want you to go. This is not goodbye, he said, reaching for her hand. It's a promise. I will come back. For you, for us. Her mother, who had been silent, finally spoke. My daughter, let him go. He's a man. He wants to build something for you. That's love too. Joy looked between them, tears filling her eyes. But what if he doesn't come back? Richard stepped forward and wiped her cheek gently. I will. I swear on everything I've lived through, I will return. The next morning, he packed his few belongings, clean clothes, the slippers Joy gave him, and the mat her mother had sewn for him. Before leaving, he hugged her mother. Thank you, Mama, he said. May God bless you always. She nodded. Go well, my son. He turned to Joy. She couldn't speak, only looked at him with glistening eyes. He took her hands. You gave me a reason to live again, he said, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving I was worth your kindness. She hugged him tightly, burying her face in his chest. I'll wait for you, she whispered. He kissed her forehead and turned to walk away, his heart heavy but full of resolve. Joy stood at the gate long after he was gone, staring at the path he had taken. That night, she sat beside her mother in silence. Mama, she whispered, what if he forgets me? Her mother gently pulled her close. My child, people don't forget those who saved them. You didn't just give him food, you gave him dignity. When Richard returned to the city, he didn't go to his penthouse or his company's headquarters. He went straight to a familiar house, his father's mansion. The tall iron gates opened as he stepped through with dust still on his shoes. His father, Mr. Blake, sat in the living room reading a newspaper. When he saw his son, he stood. Where have you been? Richard sat down and began to tell him everything. How he had pretended to be poor, how he met Joy, and how her kindness changed his life. His father listened without interrupting. When Richard finished, Mr. Blake leaned back, eyes thoughtful. She followed you even when she had nothing to gain. Yes, Dad, Richard said. She and her mother left their home for me. They believed in me when I was nothing. His father nodded slowly. Then she's the one. Let's go meet her. The next day, a black car pulled quietly into the small village where Joy and her mother lived. Joy was in the yard cleaning vegetables. Her mother was washing clothes by the side of the house. When they saw Richard step out, they froze. But it wasn't just him. Another man followed, tall, regal, wearing a fine native outfit. It was Mr. Blake. Joy dropped the basket in shock. You look different, Richard said softly. I am. And this is my father. Her mother knelt. You're welcome, sir. Mr. Blake raised her gently. Please don't kneel. I came to thank you for saving my son. Joy looked at Richard, stunned. So your name is really Richard Blake? Yes, he said. And I'm sorry for hiding it. I just needed to know if love without money could still exist. And you proved it does. Joy, I want to marry you. Joy gasped. Really? You deserve everything good, he said, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But Joy took a deep breath. Before anything, she said softly, you must go to my father, ask for the marriage list, do things the right way. Mr. Blake smiled. She's right. Culture matters. And so under the hot sun, Richard and his father went to the house of Joy's father. He sat under the mango tree, his face hard as ever. "We've come to do the proper thing," Mr. Blake said. "My son wishes to marry your daughter." The old man narrowed his eyes. "Never," he said coldly. "In this house, the first daughter must marry before the second. If you want Joy, then marry both daughters, or wait." Shock fell over the courtyard. Richard stood slowly. "You want me to marry two women just because of a tradition?" "It's our custom," the man replied proudly. Mr. Blake clenched his fists. "That's absurd." Richard turned to his father. "We're leaving." As they walked out, Martha and her mother stepped from the shadows, smirking. "You did well," Madame Stella said. "Now he'll come back for you." But Richard had no such plans. In the car, silence hung heavy. Then Mr. Blake suddenly sat up. "I just remembered. My old friend, he's a king now, not far from here. Let's go speak to him." Richard looked at him. "A king, yes, and he hates outdated customs." With that, they changed direction and drove to the palace. When they arrived, royal guards opened the golden gates. The king stepped out, dressed in flowing robes, a gold staff in hand. "Blake, is that you?" Mr. Blake laughed. "Yes, my friend." They embraced like brothers. The king listened carefully as Mr. Blake explained everything. When he finished, the king laughed. "That old tradition. It was abolished a year ago. Girls can marry in any order now. That foolish man still lives in the past." Richard smiled. "So we can go ahead?" The king nodded. "Let love lead. No one can stop what the gods have blessed." Later that evening, Richard returned to Joy's home with the news. "The king has spoken," he said. "We can begin wedding plans." Joy cried tears of joy. Her mother hugged her. Richard held her hands. "We've come this far, Joy. Nothing will stop us now." And for the first time since he stepped onto the dusty road, as a poor man, Richard felt ready, not just to love, but to fight for it. The days following the king's declaration were filled with joyful preparations. Richard and Joy walked through the local market, buying fabrics for traditional outfits, laughing like childhood friends rediscovering the world. Joy's mother worked tirelessly, sewing, cooking, and organizing, with an energy no one had seen in years. Neighbors who once watched them with doubt now stopped by to offer congratulations and blessings. The once quiet compound now buzzed with hope. But in the shadowed corners of another home, two women burned with envy and rage. Martha sat on the edge of her bed, fists clenched, lips trembling. "How can that poor girl be the one living a fairy tale?" she spat. Madame Stella paced the room, eyes bloodshot. "This isn't over. That mansion should have been yours. He was supposed to marry you. You said the tradition would stop them. It should have," Madame Stella screamed. "But that wretched king ruined everything." For a moment, they were silent. Then Stella's voice dropped to a whisper. "We must go. Tonight." "Where?" Martha asked. "To the mountains. To the old native doctor in Aja village. If words fail, we use charms. If love won't be stolen with sweetness, then let it be taken by force." Martha hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure in my life." That night, while rain poured and thunder rolled, the two boarded a rickety bus, headed toward darkness. They clutched a small bag containing a red cloth, a bottle of oil, and a bundle of money wrapped in leaves. Other passengers whispered prayers. The road ahead was steep and slick. As the bus began its climb over the hill road, the driver lost control. Screams filled the air. The tires slipped. The bus tilted, then tumbled once, twice, 3 times, before it landed upside down in a ravine. The rain continued, washing over twisted metal. By morning, the village heard the news. There had been only 2 casualties. Martha and Madame Stella. The entire town buzzed with shock. Some mourned. Others whispered, "Was it justice?" In the house Joy once called home, silence replaced chaos. Her father sat under the mango tree alone for the first time in years. No shouting wife, no scheming daughter. Just the rustle of leaves and the heavy weight of regret. He looked around the empty compound. The same place where he had insulted his first wife, disowned his daughter, and tried to chase away a stranger who had brought them nothing but light. That evening, dressed in his finest native attire, he combed his hair, picked up a walking stick, and made a quiet journey to the city. When he arrived at the gate of the mansion Richard had prepared for Joy and her mother, he hesitated. The large house loomed, its windows glowing softly. He knocked. The security guard eyed him warily. "Who do you want to see?" "Joy's mother," he said, voice cracking. Minutes later, she came out. She stopped a few steps away, arms folded. "Yes." He dropped to his knees. "Please," he whispered, "forgive me. I was a fool. I let pride, tradition, and a wicked woman blind me. I lost everything, my daughter, my wife, my peace. I have nothing left but this prayer." She stood still, her expression unreadable. "You're right," she said finally. "You lost everything, and I found everything. Please," he begged, "let us start again. I miss your cooking, your smile, your presence. I'm not the same man." She stepped closer, her voice calm and clear. "No, you're not. You're weaker now. You only returned because you are alone, not because you loved us." He blinked, trembling. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "I have peace now. A daughter who shines. A man who respects her. I don't need you anymore." She turned and walked back inside, leaving him at the gate with only his memories and the taste of his own downfall. Months passed. The wedding day finally came. It was grand, yet warm, elegant, but full of soul. The village rejoiced. The king sent his blessings. Guests arrived in colorful attires. The courtyard bloomed with decorations, laughter, and drums that echoed love's triumph. Joy wore a long white dress, her face glowing like the morning sun. Richard stood tall in his native agbada, his hands never leaving hers. When the priest asked, "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" Richard looked into her eyes. "I do, 1,000 times over." Joy's voice trembled as she responded, "I do. From the day I gave you rice to this day of gold, and all the days after." The crowd erupted in cheers. Tears ran freely of joy, of relief, of victory. After the ceremony, Richard took Joy and her mother to their new home, a majestic white mansion with a garden of lilies and roses, a wide balcony, and rooms filled with light. Joy's mother was given her own space, complete with a prayer room and a small herb garden. "You deserve more than this," Richard told her. "But this is just the beginning." Joy now officially. Mrs. Blake walked through the halls in awe. "I'm still trying to believe this is real," she whispered. Richard held her close. "It is, and it's only possible because of your love." But far away in the ruined house Joy once called home, her father sat on the same bench, rocking slowly, eyes vacant. No Stella, no Martha, no Joy, just silence. The silence he once gave to others had finally returned to him. 1 year later, Joy gave birth to twin boys, David and Daniel. The house echoed with baby cries, lullabies, and love. Richard often sat under the same mango tree in their new compound, holding his son's Joy by his side. "We've come a long way," he whispered. Joy smiled, and every tear was worth it. Her mother rocked the babies, singing songs from her childhood. Peace had finally returned, not because life was perfect, but because love had conquered every lie, every scar, every storm. From the dusty streets of a hidden identity to the golden halls of truth, from rejection to celebration, from separation to unity. Love had won, and not just romantic love, the love of a daughter for her mother, the love of a mother who refused to bow to pride, the love of a man who gave up everything just to find what money could never buy. In the end, they had not just built a home, they had built a legacy. The morning sun poured softly over the mansion's garden, casting golden light on the dew-covered petals of blooming flowers. Inside the house, the laughter of babies rang through the halls, echoing life, joy, and new beginnings. Richard sat on the floor of the nursery, a baby on each arm, David gently sleeping, Daniel sucking his thumb, their tiny chests rising and falling against him like peaceful tides. Joy stood at the doorway, arms crossed, watching the scene with quiet awe. "You're a natural," she whispered. Richard looked up, smiling. "I had a good teacher." She walked in, kissed his forehead, and took David in her arms. "Can you believe we're here?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said, "it still feels like I'm under that old mango tree waiting for you to bring me rice." She chuckled. "And now you're feeding babies jollof." And they both laughed, the kind of laughter only those who have passed through fire and made it to the other side can truly share. Joy's mother, now a proud grandmother, sat in her small garden outside harvesting herbs for soup. She hummed a hymn, her hands quick, her heart full. Life was not perfect, but it was peaceful. She often looked up from her garden to watch Joy and Richard playing with the twins and smiled to herself. "God really writes the best stories," she would say. The mansion had become more than a home. It was a sanctuary, a place where the broken had healed, where love had taken root and bloomed. One afternoon, as Joy fed the twins while Richard read them a bedtime story, a package arrived at the gate. Inside was a carved wooden box with an envelope addressed to Mrs. Joy Blake. She opened it carefully. It was from the king. The letter read, "Dear Joy, your story has inspired not only my court, but my entire kingdom. I wish to honor your courage, your dignity, and your family's resilience with the Royal Medal of Grace." Tears filled her eyes. "They're not just rewarding us," she whispered. "They're recognizing every poor girl who ever chose love over luxury." That night during dinner, Richard raised a glass. To Joy, the woman who fed a stranger when she had nothing and ended up changing not just a man, but the world around her. Joy's mother wiped a tear, nodded quietly. "You did good, my daughter. You did good." But the story wasn't done. The very next morning, a surprise visitor arrived at their home. Dressed simply, carrying no bag, looking older and humbler, stood Joy's father at the gate. The security guard hesitated, but Joy asked him to let the man in. Her father stepped inside, walking slowly, hat in hand. The compound he entered was nothing like the one he had driven her out from. This one was filled with peace. Children's toys scattered around, laughter echoing from windows, and faces that looked at him not with fear, but with curiosity. Joy stepped out with the twins in her arms. Richard stood beside her, quiet and respectful. Her mother emerged from the garden, her hands still dusty from tending the earth. Joy's father fell to his knees. "I have no right to be here," he said. "But I came to see my grandchildren. Not to ask for forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but to look in their faces and remember what I lost." Joy stood still, her grip tightening on the babies. For a moment, no one spoke. Then her mother walked forward. "You were a fool," she said softly. "You let pride destroy your home." He nodded. "I know. And yet," she continued, "you came. That means something. Joy exhaled deeply, then walked closer. She lowered one of the twins into her father's arms. He trembled, afraid to hold him, but Joy gently guided his hands. "This is David," she said, "your grandson." The old man wept. He held the baby close, his body shaking. "I missed everything," he sobbed, "but I don't want to miss this." The family sat together under the big tree in the yard. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Sometimes healing comes not with words, but with presence. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting orange light across the compound, Joy whispered to Richard, "Maybe this is what it means to win, not to live in gold, but to live in grace." He nodded, kissed her hand, and pulled her close. Years passed. The twins grew strong and curious, always asking questions about the past. One day they asked Richard, "Is it true you used to sleep on the street?" He smiled. "Yes, and it was the best mistake I ever made." "Why?" David asked. "Because it led me to your mother," he replied, "and she saved me." Daniel looked at Joy. "Did you know he was rich?" "No," she said, laughing. "He was dirty and hungry and quiet, but I saw his heart. That's what matters." Richard leaned in. "And that, boys, is why you never judge someone by their clothes. Look at how they treat others. That's how you know who someone really is." When the twins turned 10, Joy started a foundation called Feed with Joy. It provided food and shelter to street beggars, especially young boys and single mothers. Every week, she and Richard would visit shelters and cook with their own hands. Joy's mother taught girls how to grow herbs, cook, and take pride in themselves. The foundation became a symbol of what real change looks like, not given by wealth, but built through love and understanding. Back in the village, Joy's father became known as Grandpa Wisdom. He walked with children, told them stories, warned them about pride and regret. He rebuilt the old compound and turned it into a school for girls. On the front gate, he carved the words, "Let love lead." He said it every morning with tears in his eyes. As for Richard and Joy, they continued to grow, not just as husband and wife, but as partners, parents, and pillars of their community. On their 15th anniversary, they renewed their vows under that same mango tree. The entire village came. The king himself returned to bless the event. And as they danced under the stars, Joy whispered into Richard's ear, "You were right to leave the mansion that night. And you were right to stop and feed a stranger," he replied. "Without that moment, none of this would exist." Love is not always loud. It doesn't always wear diamonds or drive fancy cars. Sometimes it sits on the roadside in dirty clothes, waiting for someone kind enough to look down and say, "I see you." And when it finds a heart pure enough to believe, it doesn't just transform one life, it changes the world. In the end, Richard found what he had been searching for all along. Not just love, but a family, a purpose, and a home not built with bricks and gold, but with laughter, sacrifice, and truth. From riches to rags, from shadows to sunlight, he had come full circle. And through it all, Joy was his light, his anchor, his everything.